Tonight, I'm very excited to welcome Victoria Christopher Murray, celebrating the release of Pride, Book 5 of the Seven Deadly Sins series. This novel follows Journee Alexander, a woman who grew up believing that the only person she could rely on was herself. After being abandoned by her mother, burning bridges with friends, and narrowly escaping bad business dealings with her first mentor, her trust is hard to earn and harder to keep. But she has overcome all of that, and now, as a successful mortgage broker at the top of her game in Houston's booming real estate market, she has every reason to be proud of her accomplishments. She achieved this massive success on her own. There's no need to put her trust in anyone else. But when Journee starts receiving cryptic text messages from an unknown number threatening to destroy everything she's worked to build, she is out of her depth for the first time. Forced to consider accepting help from someone, Journee turns to the first man she loved, the one who got away. But old habits are hard to break, and after trusting only her own instincts for so long, can she put aside her pride and accept advice from an old flame, or should she put her trust in a brand new love who is in sync with all she wants to do? Journee is forced to confront the secrets of her past, the old hurts that never seem to heal, and the fact that sometimes a meteoric rise is the first step in a devastating fall that will change her life forever. Victoria Christopher Murray is the New York Times and USA Today bestselling author of more than 30 novels, including Stand Your Ground, a Library Journal Best Book of the Year, and NAACP Image Award winner. Her novel, The Personal Librarian, which she co-wrote with Mary Benedict, was a Good Morning America book club pick, and her Seven Deadly Sins series inspired 4 Lifetime original movies. Visit her website at victoriachristophermurray.com. Murray will be in conversation with ReShonda Tate Billingsley. Billingsley has made a career out of getting the 411 and spinning a story, hard truths and all. Before writing full-time, she worked as a reporter for the National Enquirer. You wouldn't believe what she's uncovered. And as an anchor and reporter for NBC, ABC, and Fox Television. The author of more than 50 books, she has won the 2012 NAACP Image Award for Outstanding Literary Fiction and is a 5-time winner of the National Association of Black Journalists Spirit in the Words competition. Visit her online at ReShondaTate.com. Please join me in welcoming to Politics and Prose, Victoria Christopher Murray and ReShonda Tate Billingsley.
Good to see you.
Tearing the mic up already.
I apologize for that. So how is everyone? Thank you for coming out and to hear us speak about my new novel, Pride. And I want to thank ReShonda Tate Billingsley for coming all the way from Houston, Texas to do this with us today. So she came yesterday, leaving tomorrow morning. She came just for you.
And I am so excited to be here, and thank you all so much for coming out. And we just want to have an informal, just great, entertaining conversation about this amazing book. So I'm going to just jump right in, and then you can think of your questions because we'll take questions at the end. So Victoria, you have covered lust, greed, wrath, and envy, and now you're tackling pride. Let's talk about this sin. Lots of people think that it's just about being prideful or boastful, but in this book, you show it's much more than that.
Yeah, you know what's so interesting about writing about the 7 deadly sins in a fiction formula is that all of the other sins that I've tackled were outward sins. You can see lust, you can see greed, you can definitely see wrath. But pride is an inward sin. And so it's much harder to show that. And so when working on this character, and full disclosure, ReShonda worked on this book with me because I was working on other books as well. So when we were doing it, we had to figure out a way to show pride mostly through the character's thoughts, mostly through their deeds, but not things. You can't walk up to somebody and say, oh, that's prideful, based on behavior, but you can based on their words.
And that was my next question. Is that something that's difficult to do, to write? Because it's easy to write about someone showing wrath and tearing some stuff up. How difficult is it to write showing that.
Yeah, it was really difficult, and I got help from you, and as you know, Lifetime got involved because they were like, "How are we going to show this?" And they normally didn't get involved in the books, remember? And so they were trying to help, and everyone was trying to help show this sin. But what's so interesting is that so many people think this might be the best book of the series.
And a lot of people may not. It just came out today, so happy Pub Day. We like to say happy Pub Week, so you can tell everybody to get it all week long. But give us just a brief overview. I know when she was introduced, you told us a little bit about it, but in your author taglines, to give us a little spiel of what it's about.
So you do taglines way better than me, because she can do a tagline. She was a news journalist before, so she can tell you the whole book in 4 words. It takes me 4 hours, but this is the story of Journee Alexander, who is a woman who didn't have a strong beginning in her life. She was what she believes abandoned by her mother, and so she feels like she's fought for everything in her life, and she's done it herself, and now she's at the top of her game in the real estate market in Houston, Texas. And so she has everything, but now somebody wants to take it away. And the book opens with her visiting her ex. Somebody wants to destroy her, and there's only one person who can save her, and that is her ex. So do you know what it's like to go back to your ex and say, "I need your help"?
No, I don't. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Well, I don't either, but that's why I write fiction. We make this stuff up. We make it up as we go. But it was really interesting to write this book because there's a suspense to it. Someone is stalking her through text, and they can't trace them. And you can't figure out who it is. I wanted to make it so that everyone was a suspect. Everyone was, as you start reading it. And who you think it is, it's not. And so there was that. There was, does she want to get back with her ex, or does she not want to get back with her ex? And does the fact that he's engaged now have anything to do with it? Your eyebrows went up that part. Her eyebrows went, wait a minute, he's engaged now? He used to be engaged to her, but now he's engaged to someone else. And then their connection, the two women's connection. So there's a lot of twists and turns in this. We put a lot of twists and turns in this one.
Well, the main character, Journee, makes some questionable decisions throughout the book. And just when you think she's learned from those past decisions, she goes and makes some more questionable decisions, much like a lot of people in life.
Yeah.
Was that purposeful?
Yeah, you know what was interesting about Pride, or writing all of these sins? It is hard to write a book about any of these sins and then have readers love the characters, and because the person's in lust, so you're like, I don't like her, she's in lust, and I ain't never lusted after somebody, not you may not have said it, but all your friends did. And then or you can, the character is in envy, you can see envy, and you don't like people who are envious, so it's hard to get people to really like the character. And so with this character, she's prideful. She don't need your help because she's smarter than everybody out there. She doesn't need any your help because she's proven how good she is. She's proven that already. And so it's hard to write that kind of character and get people to like them and to feel empathy with them. But interestingly, the advanced readers on this book related to this character more than any of the other characters I've written. And I wonder what that is. I wonder if we have a lot of pride inside of us and we don't get to see it because it's an inward sin.
I also think it's a testament to your writing, because throughout the book she kept going, I don't like Journee. I said, but it's your main character. And so you put a lot of thought into what makes a person, because no one is all good or all bad.
Yeah, that's
so you
something
put a
we
lot
learned.
of thought into that.
Yeah, and I really I didn't like her, and I had to find ways to soften her. And what makes a person a character, one that you want to empathize with, is their motivation, their reason for being. And if you can understand their reason, you may not agree with all of her bad decisions, but you can understand her bad decisions. So I was purposefully trying to make her make a lot of bad decisions, but have people understand that she was making them.
One of her best friends in the book says, it's never your intention to do anything because you're just poor little homeless Journee Alexander who is always trying to do right, but is always in the dead center of wrong. Do you think that sums up who she is?
Ooh, that's a good question. Yeah. Yeah, she thinks she's always right. You know, she's created this wonderful life. She's always right. And so she has a hard time listening to other people.
All right. The mother-daughter relationship. Tell us your thoughts that went into developing this unusual relationship in this book.
Yeah, I already mentioned something where she abandoned her mother abandoned her, and then her mother comes back into her life. So what do you think a prideful person would do? That's hard, right? To accept that. So that was one of the things I love doing is giving my characters challenges where they are challenged with everything in their life. And so she was faced with this mother who wanted a relationship, who tried to explain what happened because she has a sister. So the mother had 2 children, and she didn't abandon Journee, but Journee saw it that way. She gave Journee away and kept the sister. And that's a challenge to Journee.
Ethan is pretty hard. Ethan is her ex-fiance. Do you think it's warranted? And along those same lines, was her disdain of her mother warranted?
Ethan was hard on her?
Yes,
No, he wasn't.
Ethan was hard on
He
her.
was like, look, we've been through this already. We're not going to go through this again. He wasn't hard. He just reminded her of all the reasons why maybe they shouldn't be together. But it's going to be interesting. I wish people had a chance to read it so we could talk about this, because I would love to know how readers would react to a situation where a mother gave you up and now she's back in your life and wants a relationship with you. And so, and you feel like you were abandoned. And this happened when you were, how old? 7?
7.
She was 7 years old. So you have 7-year-old memories. You have 7-year-old thoughts. Now you're 34. What would you do? And so I don't know. I think there are going to be some people that say she wasn't too hard on her mother. And I think there are going to be people who say, especially when they find out the truth, they may say the opposite.
Okay. One of my favorite lines comes from Ivy, who is Ethan's fiance. She says, everyone deserves grace. I've been given so much of it that every chance I get, I try to pass some of it forward to make room so more grace can come to me. That seems to be a theme throughout the book, that allowing that grace for those that make mistakes, like Journee. Again, was that something that you put thought into?
Yeah, that's my life motto. If I had to put words to it, I'm a person that believes in forgiveness. I believe in giving grace because I've been forgiven so much, and I have been given so much grace. And so I feel like I need to give it out so more can come back into my life. So that is, I don't know if I meant it to be a theme throughout the book, but I could see how it would read that way because of what I believe in life. And so a lot of people think, oh, Victoria is just so easy to walk over, and that's not what it is. Because I will forgive. I didn't say I forgot. You know, I haven't forgot nothing. But I do believe in forgiving. I really do.
Okay. One of the big parts of the book is the trouble that Journee is in. And that is she's gotten caught up in her past.
She's
has
in a
come
lot
back
of trouble.
Yes, her past has come back to haunt her. But this is a different type of trouble that we don't normally see in books. And talk to us a little bit about that. How did you decide to look at some of the things that she did in her past?
Okay, so you could help answer this because we had so many discussions about this. You know, one of the things that when you've written 30 books, you're trying to find a way to make them different and to make them as interesting, make this 30th one as interesting as the first. And so I never want to repeat a story or anything. So I'd never seen a story about someone in real estate before. And there's so many real estate scams. There's so many things that you read about and things. So I said, let's give her that as a career. She can get into a lot of trouble with that. And ReShonda and I were finding all kinds of real estate. There are so many real estate scams out there, it's scary. And so we just kind of picked the best ones for the book, and I was fascinated. I was fascinated by them.
Yes, that's a world you don't live in. So one of my friends, I'm not I heard about this guy that was running some real estate scams, and it was fascinating to hear the levels that people go to, but they don't really look at it as a major crime.
Not at all. And because that friend, who wasn't really a friend, who, just somebody you knew met on the corner one day, he would never think it was a crime at all. But it's a crime. And it's a crime that people go to jail for 20 years, 25 years. But some of the scams are horrible. Some of them are, I wouldn't say innocent, but some of them are scamming the banks, so you give false papers and things like that. And there was a man from Queens today was arrested over false papers. So that could get you in trouble. No, a man from Queens got arrested. You didn't hear?
No,
okay. So a man from Queens got arrested for false papers, so you can get in a lot of trouble for that. And so sometimes people look at that and say, that's not a crime. You're just saying that you earned that money. That's a crime. I mean, the man, 34 times he got in trouble for that. But there are other crimes. There are other real estate crimes that are more outwardly, where you're hurting other people. And she was doing crimes that hurt other people.
And, without giving too much away, because I am fascinated by the crimes, let's talk about some of those. Just, just because people don't realize.
Yeah, and I guess it wouldn't give one. So the falsifying records, that's something that people make up their 1099s or a W-4 form, whatever. They make them up, and that's a crime. You are defrauding the bank. So that gets you in trouble, but people don't look at it as a crime because they're like, I'm just lying to me and we're just stealing money from the bank, But in this book, she had some of that, but they were doing things like taking elderly people whose homes were close to being in foreclosure and promising them that they were going to save them if they signed the deed over to them. And just sign it over to us, because then we'll be able to work with the bank if we can, if it's in our name. And people are desperate. And this was a real scam. This wasn't anything we made up. And people are so desperate, especially if they meet someone in church, they'll believe it. Because, these people go to church to find you. And we got testimony over here. So that was an interesting scam, and it took us a while to understand it and to be able to explain it clearly.
Yeah, and that's because she's one of those literal people, and it's like, well, didn't they ask questions? Well, no, they don't. A lot of people are just like, you can help me, and they open up the doors to be helped. One of the last questions before we turn it over to the audience, who was your favorite character to write in this book?
Oh, that's a good question. I I really liked Ethan. I liked an ex who wanted to help but not be involved. He wanted to, stay away, but then he was still attracted to her. So I liked writing about that, and I really liked writing her mom. How do you look at two children and say I have to give one up? And how do you do that? So I really like when we're writing characters, we like discovering who they are, and finding out and understanding these people. So
one of the things I like about all of these books in the Seven Deadly Sins series is that you write about more than just the sin. You write about the deadly part of it.
Yeah, that's funny, right? Because people think the books are about the sin, but I never forget that there are 7 deadly sins. And so what has been a challenge is that making sure at the end that the deadly part is not always the same, but that there are great consequences to these sins. And so that has been fun. I'm going to miss that because we haven't talked about the part
That
yet.
was my next question. Now, there are 7 deadly sins, so please tell us why you're stopping at 5.
Okay, so so what happened was, when I wrote Lust, I had no intention of really writing 7 books. I mean, I have a little bit of a commitment issue, so that's 7 years of, no. But then I wrote the first book, and Patrick Bass, who was the book editor of Essence magazine at the time, read it, and he had been following me for 20 years. Long story short, he called a friend of his, Sean Robinson, who wanted to get into movies. And he said, I've been following Victoria. If you want to get into movies, you better call her now because she's about to do the 7 deadly sins. I wasn't. I just wrote a book called Lust, and I thought it was a good theme, So she calls me and says, are you writing 7 deadly sins? No. And she said, well, if you write one more book, I'll go out and sell it. So I said, okay, so let me write Envy. And so then, long story, but she finally got T.D. Jakes and Lifetime. And they said, are you going to write the 7 books? I'm like, no. And they were like, but if you write one more book, no, this is true, right? They said, Lifetime said, if you write one more book, I'll give you a 7-movie deal. So I had to write 3 books to get a 7-movie deal. I was miserable writing that last book because I had to write it fast and got it done. So that's how I got kind of pulled into the 7 deadly sins, because Lifetime, and when Lifetime comes and says we're going to make your books into movies, you know what you do? You write the books.
And so we can't get a gluttony and sloth.
No,
Just one more book.
I wrote 5, and they are not easy to write because you are limited to what you're writing, because you have to write the sin and the person, and I just want to write other stuff. And Lifetime has made kind of a deal with me that if they decide to do the other ones, I'm still a consulting producer, so I can still tell them, okay, I like this part, I like that part, but they're fine with it.
Okay, well, speaking of Lifetime, on this Saturday, your book, Pride, is going to be on the screen. However, it's not your book, so let's talk about that.
This is a little different. The other 4 movies, Lust, Envy, Wrath, and Greed, were totally based on the book. And this time, Lifetime has said that they are doing something called ripped from the headlines. They have, if I don't watch Lifetime, I shouldn't have said that. I watch Lifetime a lot.
Can you stop recording that?
I watch Lifetime a lot. And one of the things I noticed, because I watch Lifetime all the time, she's laughing because she knows I don't watch that, is that they've moved to ripped from the headline stories. So we were working with the producer. No, he's not the producer. He's a Lifetime executive on this. And they read the book, which was very late, and then they had another script, and they were like, Victoria, should we try this? Should we try something where we'll do a movie on Pride, and then we have your book on Pride. You're still a consulting producer, and then you can do something like, say, who did Pride best? Did Victoria do it better, or did Lifetime do it better? So that's what's going to happen this time, and if it works, that's what they'll do with the next two, and I'll be a producer on it.
Okay, get a producing credit without having to write the book.
Won't have to write the book.
Okay.
But you guys got 5 of them out. Remember, I didn't want to do this. I was writing one book. That was it. That was it.
Okay, so we're going to get to the questions in just a moment, but I want to take a second because I like for people to know about Victoria Christopher Murray, the person. So one of the ways we do that is our lightning round questions.
Okay.
So just answer the question, texting or talking.
Oh, texting. Except to you. You're the only person I talk to on the phone.
Beach or mountains?
Oh, beach.
Frankie Beverly or Earth, Wind, and Fire?
And you know,
Frankie, how is that the most difficult question?
Because they're both so good, right? Frankie Beverly is, that is, you don't like Frankie Beverly, yeah. I love Frankie Beverly. He has no more new songs since 1864. But you go to a concert and everybody's standing up singing every song. But Earth, Wind, and Fire, oh man, we are people.
Okay, you're a writer. All right. Next question. 90s rap or current rap?
90s. That's not even close.
Norbit or Medea?
You know what? She just put that in there.
Norbit or Medea? One or the other?
No, I pass.
Summer or fall?
Summer.
Read on the beach or read on the treadmill?
So I read on the treadmill. I read on the treadmill, and that's how I get so much reading done every year. I wonder if it's a read on the beach. Because, then I'd be away. Read on the beach.
$1 million or a 900 credit score?
$1 million. They don't even have 900 credit scores.
It goes to 900.
Oh, does it?
Yes,
Okay.
it does.
Okay. I'm close to 800. I thought that was it.
No, it goes to. I did my homework. Not that I know by any personal. Donald Trump or Fidel Castro?
Ooh. Okay. So, I'm not a big Fidel Castro fan, but I can tell you he did things for people. The education. So there were things that he did for people. I don't know anything that the man from Queens has done.
Okay,
I'm from Queens. I was born and raised in Queens, so I can say from Queens because he lived near me.
Okay, we're gonna leave that at that. Last song you downloaded?
Oh, what was the last song I downloaded? I haven't downloaded any songs. I don't know, ReShonda.
You download books.
I download books. I can tell you the last book I downloaded.
But we're in a bookstore, so we're gonna talk about the last book you bought.
Oh, that's true. I only downloaded the book because when doing research, it's easier to do it on the digital thing because then you can search. But I read books.
All right, if you could be fluent in another language, what would it be?
French, the language of love.
All right, and you will get your black card revoked because you have not seen what?
Norbit or Medea.
All right, we're going to wrap with what is your writing process?
So if my editor was here right now, I'd say, I get up every day and I write from 9 to 5. I do try to write every day. I have to. We have contracts, and so we have to get these books out. But I've started writing historical fiction, and that's a little bit different now. So I outline first. First, I do the research. Like I'm writing about something in the Harlem Renaissance, so I just spent 10 days living in Harlem. It was the best experience ever. I mean, like right around the corner from the Apollo. Right. So I was in the center of Harlem. And that was wonderful, going to all the places that I needed to do. And then just all the other research. But that's all done now, and I'm almost finished with the outline and writing all the words. So I do write every day. I just don't have a particular time because it just depends.
Okay. All right. Before we turn it over, is there anything you'd like to add about Pride?
No, just tell, if you enjoy it, please tell everyone about it. And then read it, and then watch the movie on Saturday, and then send me an email and say, yeah, Victoria, you did it better. You did it better, because that's what's going to happen. But before we open the questions, can I turn the tables a little bit?
Yes.
On you.
Okay.
On you. Just everybody, I just want to thank you for coming, for ReShonda coming. But I want to talk about what you're working on now, because that's so interesting.
Yes, The Queen of Sugar Hill is my novel that comes out in January, and it is a story of Hattie McDaniel. And it is, I've just had the most amazing last 16 months. That's how long I've been working on this book, because she was the first Black Academy Award winner, but a lot of people don't know that she couldn't fit into either world. She had a great relationship with Clark Gable, so he's a big part of the story, and it's just her friendships in Hollywood and trying to find happiness. Black people didn't like her because she was stereotypical. White people didn't like her because they felt like Mammy was too sassy, and so she was always walking this fine line in between.
You said something about Clark Gable today when we were talking about it, about how he behaved in racism. Do you remember what you said? I love the way you said it.
So he really did. Clark, one of the fascinating things is he just, in a time where so many people were racist, he really was sympathetic. And he just he put his own career on the line to hug her, to be her friend, little things like that. And
yeah, because they couldn't hug in public. Yeah. They couldn't touch in public. So that's something I learned about our book coming out. Yeah. So that's good. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. So if you have any questions, there's a mic here. So please go to, and if you don't have no questions, I'm going to be a teacher, and I'm going to start calling on people, because that's my favorite part of the question. Thank you. As soon as I say that, people always find a way to have a question.
Is it on? Oh, thank you. So I'm sitting here watching you two, and I know you've written books together. And I have seen your Let the Church Say Amen movies, and then you have the 7 Deadly Sin movies. What about the books you guys have written together? Any talk of any deals to make any of those in the movies?
So we look at each other like that because one of the problems with when someone else does your books is that you have to wait on them, one, to make it happen. And then two, once we take a character that's together, you run into issues because that movie producer then owns the characters. So we are trying to get some movies done. We have some stuff in the works, but it's all kind of red tape with the producer. So that's why we said on our list of things to do, we're producing our own movies.
Produce our own. Probably not. It's going to be one we did together, not the Jasmine series.
That's what I'm thinking
but did you guys like If Only for One Night?
Oh, I just read that. That's a coincidence. I literally just read that.
Yeah, wouldn't that make a good movie?
I think so.
So that's the one we're hoping we're going to do together.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Good evening.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Oh, wonderful. Now. So my question is, more of a compliment. I live in the books. So I read The Personal Librarian, and I was right there in that library.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place, too, if you get a chance to go up there.
Yeah. You did a Authors on Tour with one of the New York Delta Sigma Theta alumni chapters. Mm-hmm. And you talked about your writing and how you got started from a little girl who just turned everything into a story. Mm-hmm. And here you are as an author.
I know.
Someone came across my came across my path, and they would tell me how their child is so animated and everything is a story. And I repeated what you said. And I said, that's a storyteller. You should get them to write that down. You have an author on your hands. So thank you for the gift of giving books to both of you. Because, yes, I've read just about everything. I think I'm behind on you. I looked, I said, when did you write that? So I'm behind on you. And I'm behind on you as well. But I keep up with your books. It all started with, I think, Grown Folks Business.
Yeah, that was my 4th novel.
Okay. Well, I started number 4. And someone gave me that book.
Oh, okay, good.
And I was like, oh, sucky. And then after that, I just been hooked. So
thank you.
Anytime I get an opportunity to read something that you wrote, I'm just like, blessed.
Thank you.
So it touches my soul, and I like being transported into wherever the world you are, whatever world you put me in, and bringing it to life in my mind. And sometimes it's so real, I'm like, girl, that's a book. So thank you for your gift.
Thank you.
And may you continue to be blessed, the two of you, in writing and bringing whatever comes into your imagination into print so that I have something to do on the train.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so
much. And
much.
it's okay to be behind on our books because I've written 30-something. I've been saying 30-something, so now it's probably close to 4. But I've written 30-something, and how many have you written?
53.
So you could be behind on our books because that's a lot to keep up with.
Yeah, my mother stopped at number 4, was like, I can't keep up. I give
But
up.
you know what? I've read every single one of your books. Yeah, so I've kept up. So, any other questions? None? Yes, sir? Yeah, but that's interesting. I'm so glad you said that because you hear Harlem Renaissance and you think jazz because a lot of people think that. And writers think Harlem Renaissance and writers. So I have a little bit of the jazz and the theater and everything in the book, but I'm writing about the most prolific writer of the Harlem Renaissance. If you have a favorite Harlem Renaissance writer, she was their editor and she discovered them. And her name is Jessie Redmond Fawcett. And she discovered Langston Hughes, Nella Larson, all of them. No, we wouldn't know them without her. So I'm focusing on the literary part. But so funny that you said that. But the jazz has to be in there. Because can you imagine what those streets were like with the Cotton Club and the Savoy Ballroom? And this was Harlem, and they had their windows open. And
So you said you were staying right there. Are there some clubs these days?
no, but it was really interesting. Another author is writing about W.E.B. Du Bois's daughter's wedding, which was like the biggest wedding in Harlem at that point. And so Tiffany was there with me. We knew the old addresses, so we went to the places where the buildings were. And there are cornerstones and plaques up for the Savoy Ballroom, for the Cotton Club. We went to the churches, Salem Baptist Church, that's still there, still one of the major churches in Harlem, in New York. So we visited all of those places. We went to every single one of W.E.B. Du Bois's addresses there, one of his homes, Langston Hughes. We went to where Jessie Redmond Fawcett lived, and why was it so close to W.E.B. Du Bois's home? You're going to have to read the book to find out.
Please come back when that book is
Well, if they will have me back, I will be here.
maybe a year.
Yeah, in about a year. Yeah. So I don't have a title for that one yet, but it is going to have, because, the Harlem Renaissance wasn't just about whichever genre you interested. It wasn't about just the literary or the jazz. It was all of that. It was originally called the New Negro Movement because it was the first time that Black people took pride in their heritage.
It's going to be a big hit, that book.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So any other questions?
If not, we'd love to have Victoria sign your books, and we thank you all so much for coming
thank you
out.
so much for coming and sitting here and listening. Hi, B. Go to the mic, he said. Oh, because they're recording.
Hi, Victoria. Hi, ReShonda.
Hi, B.
From temptation to pride, and I actually want to back up one and say personal librarian. You have been on this writer's journey, and I've heard you say, or maybe I read it on Facebook, about reading Temptation again and saying, oh my God. So when did you feel that you were in your stride as a writer? Was it in the middle? Was it near the beginning?
Good question.
So that's the first question. And then given the answer to that question, once you got into that stride and into that rhythm, when did you decide to change the genre of writing?
Okay.
That you did?
Okay, so, and I think you could answer that too, when the stride, when I wrote my first novel, Temptation, I thought I was in the stride. And then 20 years later, when I wanted to do a 20-year anniversary book and do a sequel, ReShonda and I were working on the sequel together. We both reread that book and was like, woo, child. And I called her up at one point and I said, can you believe I had a flashback inside of a flashback? She said, I read that part. I was hoping that was a mistake, like pages got out of order. That's what she said to me. It was really bad. So I thought I was in my stride, but from my first book, I took a lot of writing classes. I think I told you, I took a lot of writing classes. I wasn't trained as a writer coming up, but I realized that it was a craft. It's an art and you have a gift, but you need to get better. So once I took so many classes at the University of Iowa, I began to see that I was in my writing stride, and I challenged myself, and I know ReShonda does as well, that every book has to be better than the last book. Because if you're asking someone to spend their money, you better be growing. You better be getting better. And that is something that I truly believe in. I also believe that these words that we're putting on paper, we're leaving as a legacy. And so when people look back in 50 years, I want them to be proud of the work that Victoria Christopher Murray did. That means so much to me because our words, these books are going to be part of a time capsule. And so I really want them to be proud of that. So that's, I feel with each book I'm getting more in a stride. And I think changing genres, this came to me. I wasn't seeking historical fiction. Historical fiction came to me. And it came to me at the right time because I'd written so many contemporary books that now I feel like I'm challenged again. I feel like I'm challenged, and I'm challenging the readers again because y'all read Personality Librarian and said, whoa, where did this come from, right? So what about you?
You know, I every time I finish a book, I always go, this is the one they're gonna hate. You know, I just tell myself that. But I do work hard to make sure that book is better than the last. But my change came from because after 53 contemporary books telling the same type of story, I was ready to retire and just do film. Mm-hmm. And then Hattie came and spoke to me and said, no, don't give it up yet. Come tell my story. And I just have been completely engrossed in every little detail. Last night I was going through Howard University yearbooks from 1930, just studying every page. And I just found myself, as a journalist, I've always thought, okay, I don't want to do this kind of writing because that's too much like work. But that's right up my alley.
I was listening to Paul McCartney being interviewed for the Beatles just the other day on YouTube, and he said that the Beatles' attitude was they wanted to make every album better than the last.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and we really thank you because we really focus on that. And I think if you're asking someone to spend money on something you've done, you better be getting better. You owe them that. So thank you so much for coming out. And so I'll sign books.